All right, troops.
Sean, great to see you again, my friend. How you keeping?
Oh, very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Well, it's quite appropriate that at the time this recording comes out, it'll be December, because I believe you have some Santa gigs that are coming up.
I'm from the North Pole. Like I'm no Ouija. You know, you can't what I mean. No, I'm currently being employed. Well, I will be from about the 18th of November to the 24th of December. Not obviously every single day, because then I think the last 3 days nobody would get any presents. You know, I'd be dead.
That is something I've always struggled with when I was a kid. I was like Santa getting around the entire globe in one night.
Well, I mean, that's definitely one of the questions that the kids ask. Well, certainly the older kids, you know, maybe not quite as old as you, but, you know, still pretty young, you know.
Yeah. Well, as you know, what my boys are 5, so these are the questions that I'm going to get asked. So, if you do video gigs for the Santa stuff, I may need your help on that one.
Okay, no problem. Listen, what I can definitely help you with that. I've done it for people before, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to come to one of the shows and bring your kids with you. I know it's Edinburgh, and so you know you Glaswegians, you didn't like to go to Edinburgh because they'll say to you, the first thing they say to you is, "Oh, so you'll have had your tea then."
The thing that I don't like Edinburgh about is not anything to do with the city, and it's not anything to do with any of the festivals or anything. It's the driving. Like, yeah, I'm used to like the Glasgow driving just about because I've done it for so long. Edinburgh driving, I cannot get. It stresses me the hell out. It really does.
Since I agree with you 100%, by the way, but since Glasgow is now, or Glasgow as you say, has now, I mean, have you bought yourself like a really nice brand new fancy car? Because otherwise you can't.
No, because I double checked that because Alison had the same kind of panic. I mean, my car it's 2 years old, so it falls under the guidelines as well. But my wife was worried as well, because she was like, well, my car's come up 5 years old. How's that going to work?
Yeah, so now you've got to give her your car and buy a new one. Oh, what a problem.
Yeah, well, that's why I moved out. One thing, there's a site you can go on and you put your registration plate in, and it'll tell you whether your car's okay for like the low emissions thing. It turns out cars from 2008 onwards are okay.
Really, eh?
At the time of this recording, yes, they may look at this and go, "We're on to him. We're going to change it."
I know.
But at the time of this recording, that's what it is. 2008 up to present.
And you didn't want the police to arrive at your door and say, "Mr. Gingerman, I believe you've been selling us a bit out of the business here."
If they arrive at the place I'm staying in now, which is essentially like Coatbridge's crack den, then I think they'll be surprised they turn up in the first place.
Yeah, I know. They're a bit scared of those crack dealers, eh?
Yeah. Well, luckily, they just don't bother me. Like, I think they're more scared of me. They're like, "That's the weird ginger guy that talks to himself in the flat for 4 times a day. Like, just leave him be." They don't realize I'm doing recordings, but yeah.
Man, it's good to speak to you again. Eh?
It's brilliant to speak to you. The last time we spoke, I believe, was when you did your stand-up comedy gig at Club 100 in Motherwell.
Yeah,
the same night that I was performing as well, and I was absolutely bricking it. Well, so how's the comedy been going since then?
Well, you know, I kind of got a little bit better at it, and I felt a lot more comfortable with it. But it's, you know, I've had a lot of other sort of concerns in my life, and so I kind of shelved it for a little bit, you know. But I'm very keen to do it again. You know, it's just I live in Stirling, and like all the open mics, especially the ones I'm familiar with, are all in Glasgow. You know, I know there's some in Edinburgh as well, but once again, it's that traveling. You know, when you travel to Edinburgh, you got to park at the place, you know, outside near the airport, and then catch the tram in, and you know, because otherwise, I mean, where do you park in Edinburgh? Where you know? You can park here, but we'll be charging you £45 for 3 days. You know, and
And then when it's the Fringe, it's £45 for the hour.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. I don't know why I said 3 days. I
Well,
mean,
the 3 days is when it's normal time. When it's like Fringe time, that's like an hour for that.
Oh, they change it. Yeah, I mean, when I was doing Santa, I think the second year I was doing Santa, I parked in an illegal place, but I thought it had been cordoned off for us, the Santa people, the elves, all of that, that was my impression. I parked there and I got myself a wicked fine, and
yeah,
I had to pay it. They don't take that lying down, eh?
No, they don't. And it's like I remember I had to do a background role gig for a show, and it was through Edinburgh. This was about like 5-6 years ago, something like that. And it was just a background role, and where I parked, I thought, right, it was cordoned off. It was all good, like ads. I was like, okay, it's the same kind of deal, cordoned off. Other people had parked there that were also doing the background work because they weren't familiar with Edinburgh either. So I felt good having this kind of. I was like, wait, there's other people that are there in the same bit. That's fine. Like you, wicked fine came through that door. I don't know how many of them would have paid it. But basically, the money that I would have got for that gig went straight to the parking fee.
I know. So you basically all you got from the gig was experience.
Yeah, that was basically. It's one of those ones. It's like, yes, it's a great opportunity for you.
Yes.
And I'm like,
we'd love to have you in Edinburgh because we can make huge, filthy amounts of lucre out of you.
It's great for your exposure and great for us in the economy. Like, well, those fucking.
I've got to learn to do that Edinburgh accent because it's such a different one to the Ouija one.
Yeah, like the Ouija ones were right. Hey, what? Edinburgh like is how you getting on there? We've been up there. Like I always feel you got to say it with a wee bit kind of smug grin because they know they're ripping you off at every single turn.
I've got enough money in my bank account to last me at least 3 days.
And I have it to last at least 3 hours.
It's the Fringe, I forgot.
Well, again, it's inflation that just rises all the time. So how long had you been doing the Santa gigs for anyway?
It's I think this is my 8th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you must have had like tons of questions from kids like that. Even ones I probably can't even think of.
I tell you, it's just amazing. Obviously, there's that one about how do you get around the Earth, and then there's questions about where are the reindeer now? Where is Mrs. Claus? And then also obviously because there's a few Santas around that like a kid will say, do you remember me? I saw you on Wednesday, and and so they've obviously been to another shopping center or something like that, and I'm like, oh yes, how are you? You've got to learn to be able to make your lies sound like plausible,
I don't think that's your fault though. That's the responsibility of the parents. They need to take them to at least just one Santa, and then that's it. It's the market is saturated with Santas. Like I would take it to you're the Santa that I know my kids would just be like, right, beard, yank. At least they would know, that hurts
cool.
from you.
I like that because it shows them it's real, Obviously, I get asked, are you the real Santa? And I say, well, I'm real. Because that's not a lie. Sean, am real. So I just say, I'm real. If you cut me, I bleed. If you pull my beard, you can see I'm real. I don't know what you actually mean by am I the real? And then they're like, he's the real Santa, mommy.
It's like because the Santa thing in particular is something that I have really struggled with in my kids. Like one of the things that I am very proud of is that I don't lie to them. I don't lie to them. Like
it's not really a lie. It's a little fantasy, like the Easter Bunny, and it's not a lie. Hey? And kids, Christmas is specifically for kids, we as adults, we try and hold on to it because obviously you don't want to let go of your childhood,
Yeah.
but that Christmas period, if you are not completely and utterly focused on your kids, you might as well not do it, because it's all about them. It's about building tradition. It's about family gatherings. It's about eating too much food. It's about having a big family argument with your parents and your relatives,
In fairness, see, when it came to me, if they say, if I ever talk about Santa, I always say it's the big guy with the beard, because I'm a big guy with a beard.
Aye.
So that was like my kind of reach around it. I don't say it.
I don't think we should be talking about reach arounds, eh?
Oh, it's an over 18 show. If anybody doesn't know what a reach around is, they can Google it. But it's obviously Alison, my family, they talk about Santa, you're going to see Santa, all that kind of stuff. And of course, I would never want to kill that for my kids at all. Would not do it. It's just I always struggle with the fact of I want to be completely honest with my kids, but I also want them to have the best life that they can. So my way around it was the big guy with the beard's coming. The big guy make sure you're good for the big guy with the beard because he's watching you. Because I'm their dad. I'm a big guy with a beard, and I watch them all the time. So
a lot of guys, a lot of parents use Santa as a methodology for controlling their children over that period of time, because kids get excited, man. They can hardly, let me tell you something now, and I've seen thousands of kids, they can hardly contain themselves. They can't wait. And then when they've seen Santa, I'm telling you, they levitate out of that little, what do you call it? It's a little sort of a hut that we have,
Yeah.
There's a name for it, but I can't even mind.
Grotto.
It's the grotto.
The grotto.
Right.
Yeah.
Grotto.
Yeah. For anybody that's not familiar, this is when I say it's a brain fart. We just had a brain fart, a collective brain fart, trying to think of the word grotto.
That's a good term. I think I'm going to steal it from you.
Yeah, you might as well.
I've got a link to a movie that I was in. It's a short 10-minute link. I'm going to send you that. Okay. It's called The Big Fat Santa, I know it's just called Big Fat Santa, and it's fun and it's excellent and you'll love it. And once you've watched it, if you think it's cool, you can show it to your kids. It's on YouTube. I've got a YouTube link to it. I just watched it now because I contacted the director and he put it up for me and he said, okay, it's up, have a look, I mean, I've got a copy of it, but I wanted the link so I can send it to people because, I make pretty much most of my money for the year over that period, so then the rest of the year I can do other things like try and get acting work and because it's very hard for me since I've been in Scotland to be accepted as a serious actor for some reason, even though I mean I've worked with as you remember, with like Patrick Swayze, with Meg Ryan, with Danny Trejo, you name it. I mean, I've been on set with these guys and I've acted in scenes with them and I've held my own with those guys. So I don't understand what exactly the British film industry wants from me.
I think it's just a case of, and pardon my French, they are dicks. It's why
boobies,
Aye, massive massive ball bags, as I would call
the fucking booby, pal.
Or I call them utter ball bags.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't think there's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, it's why
from, our friend Colin McGregor. He's a wonderful dude.
Yes, Colin McGregor.
Oh, he's on the Radio Lanarkshire. As are you at the moment.
At the time of this recording, yes. At the moment, at the time of this recording, but it's something. It's why I was wanted to set up my own kind of little pocket of my own thing, because it was like no one in the industry takes you seriously unless there's some there seems to be all these weird initiation doors you've got to walk through and stuff. It's like the only way I could describe similar was because I do my show about Thomas the Tank Engine.
I don't know that show, mate. I've seen your stand-up, but I haven't. You haven't used that in your stand-up.
I do have a show. It's called The Ginger Engine. And I talk about my love of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, because I've had that love since I was a kid. It's still with me as an adult, and there's quite an active adult fandom as well. And when I became part of the fandom, there seemed to be like a weird initiation process. It was like, your love of Thomas, which is a deal breaker. Next one was like, you have to say that season 5 of the classic season is the best season of all time. And I was like, no, actually it isn't. No, in my book. Well, it's great, but not in my book. And then there was like, yeah, this episode here is reviled amongst the fandom. Everybody despises it. And if you're not a true fan. And I was like, it's fine. It's not great, but it's not bad either. Like you even say that, you get ostracized, and it's the same kind of deal with the film industry.
You too much of an individual, You're not a product of the sausage machine,
Yeah. Well, so a product of one sausage machine. That was an awkward conversation I had with my dad.
Let's not talk about that. But listen,
he told me I was adopted. It was fine.
Please tell me that you're not going to stop doing this podcast. I mean, you've said that you are, but please don't stop.
It's a kind of, well, I was speaking to I guess Chris Watt, like a director, and he'd said to me, "It's like, is this going to be kind of like Bob Dylan's like never-ending tour? Like you'll just keep going until it dries up, and then when it dries up, you'll say, okay, that's me done." And I was like, I didn't think of that, but again, it's a good reach around.
Yeah. But if I was you, I'd say to him, why don't you have a little chat with my friend Joe Rogan, or else if you can't get hold of Joe, I can put you in touch with Mark Maron. Because I mean, these guys are pretty much, like you, the best podcasters that I've ever come across.
Well, thank you very much. And such high esteem as someone who's done it so long as Joe Rogan. Like that's certainly something. Like it was just that
do you know Mark Maron?
I know of Mark Maron. Yes,
he does the WTF podcast.
Yes,
it's brilliant. It is absolutely. I mean, he saved his career was going down the toilet, and I mean, he's been doing stand-up comedy he's the same age as me, and he's been doing it pretty much his whole life. And now he's back on the stand-up tour. His podcast has saved his life.
Well, it's certainly something like I was reaching out to people before saying I was going to do the final season, saying I'm thinking about starting up again. Does anybody want to come on as a guest? And it was dead. It was like I was standing yelling in an empty forest. No one was there to respond to it. It's the most lonely feeling in the world when your follower count says it's like 1,900 people and 0 people get back to you saying that they want to come on a show. It wasn't like one time that I'd done it. It happened a couple of times, and I thought, well, let's have a real look at it. Let's look at the show. Let's look at kind of deep dive into the analytics. And there was a peak, and there's definitely been a trough. There was times when it was getting like 4,000 views, and then it's getting like a max of 30. And I thought, if I
was you, I wouldn't even worry about those analytics. I would just do the show and just keep doing the show and keep getting more and more like highfalutin, interesting people. Don't be shy to, speak to Nicola Sturgeon. Don't be shy to speak to some of I mean, I can put you in touch with all sorts of people, as well, because I've got some contacts in Scotland, like I've got a mate who lives in that very fancy area in Glasgow. And I mean, he's spent the last 6 weeks at the Rugby World Cup in France. He's been interviewing people. He's been interviewed. He's been talking to the Springbok team. I mean, that's, for me, I can bring that to the party. I'm sure Colin can bring some other very exceptional talents to the party, So I think it's all about who are you talking to, because if you're talking to interesting people, eventually the word's going to get out and the thing's going to go mad, because you're a good interviewer and, you make people talk.
I've got a great idea of how we can keep the podcast going, but also get the so-called credibility that you're lacking for the industry. Contact Danny Trejo. We'll do a free. We'll get like me, you, and Danny Trejo on and talk about it. Just talk about stuff. And then just having the name, and they'll be like, "Holy shit!" And Machete is talking to a ginger guy.
I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll call Danny and I'll say, "Listen, bud, I'm doing a shoot in Scotland. Do you want to be in it?" And then I say, look, I mean, obviously the budget's a bit min, but if you can get here, we'll sort out your accommodation and, and everything.
Yeah. It's like the easiest part is just go, Danny, have you got a phone? You've probably got one that's better than us. Have you got
we can just do it on the phone, eh?
Yeah, it's like just put your phone on, right, and just say, yeah, I'm with this ginger guy, and here's my mate Sean. Fire away. And that's it. That's
okay,
it. Instant problem solved. Like world hunger, cured. Our world hunger, cured.
You know what? You're very good.
Well, it's one of those ones. Is like if someone says, "No, you're good at this," I just go, "Eh." It's the same deal. Like,
okay. I mean, that's humility. But I mean, you know, I think the best thing about me is my humility. You know, I mean, of all my traits, you know, that's my best. I think I'm probably better at that than everybody else in the whole.
I know it's one of the things is like when people like say, you know, or like, or I'm interviewing Sean Higgs, and they're like, hey, who's Sean? And I'm like, right, look up the people he's worked with. And I get like give them the list. And I'm like, right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I didn't realize he worked with them. And I was like, was it back here? And I'm like, no, he had actual speaking parts. He was like holding big parts, holding his own against them. What? It's the same. You know, it's like
I worked with Julian Sands. Now I don't know if that name rings a bell, but he was in, I think, not That English Patient, but look, he's acted with some very, very powerful people, and I didn't realize, but he was living in California, and then he disappeared, and now they've eventually found his corpse. He died. I mean, you know that we don't last forever, eh?
Yeah, no, definitely not. It always seems to be like in the industry just now. It seems to be whoever shouts the most gets what they want. And that and for me, that's an internal struggle because it contradicts everything I was brought up with as a kid, where it was like, you know, focus on the work, do the hard work, do the graft, and you'll get there. But now it's like people going, I'm entitled to blah, blah, blah. Okay, now you get it. And it's like, no, where's the hard work? Where's the stuff that come with it? Because a lot of people looked at the show when it was in its pomp and they were like, oh, how did you get so successful so quickly? I was 100 shows deep by that point. I was like, I did the graft, I did the hard work, where people like looked at it and thought, what the fuck is he doing? Like he can barely string two sentences together. And I was like,
and I mean, the thing is you didn't have much equipment in those days.
No.
And slowly but surely you've got a better microphone, you've got some more lights, you've learned how to use the computer even more effectively, etc. It's
definitely.
So your skills have developed.
Well, and it's even like when I used to be in the studio as well, like, and it became this big controversy with people. Why are you not going to the studio anymore? Or have you and Ross and Matthew had a falling out? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, why are you just doing it on the computer? I'm like, it's the simple fact is I cannot afford it anymore. When I chose to make this like my full-time profession, some things sadly had to go. And the studio was sadly one of them. It doesn't mean that Ross or Matthew and I had a falling out.
They thought that studio was free.
Yeah, they did. I remember like there was right at the start, I'd had guests coming in, and they were booked in. Like, I mean, you knew the setup that I had. I would get 2 or 3 guests in for the day because I wanted to make good use of the studio because it cost a lot. It's cheaper than studios you could get in like, city centre or whatever. But it's still, for someone that was starting out, it was a bit of money. But I wanted to pay it to the guys because they're worth more than that. They're worth more than what I was able to give them. But somebody phoned the day before and went, oh, we can't make it today. Can we move it to tomorrow? And I went, no, you can't. And they're like, oh, why not? It's like, because it's not my studio. It's not it's not my and I've got other guests booked for the same day. And they're like, but surely like it wouldn't cost you any more. And I went, how much do you actually think a studio costs? And I went right through it with them. And the thing that pissed me off most, they were a band.
So
they were a band. They should know studio time costs money. Like the people cost money, the skills cost money, the expertise costs money. And they're just like, I'll shift it to tomorrow because you have a studio. I'm like, no, I don't. Like Matthew and Ross, like Chris, and one of the other guys there, like they have the studio. They have people they've got to see. They've got other clients that they've got to work with. They
don't own it. They're paying rent.
Yeah, they're paying rent. They've got to pay that.
Big rent.
They've got to pay it as well.
And they've also got to live. You know, they're not making a fortune, you know, out of the studio. They're making money, but I mean, they're not. I didn't see any Ferraris and Porsches parked in the car park.
No, definitely not. And it was the case of, well, I mean, now they've been able to move closer to home, which saves the travel expense and stuff. And what it was something that it just annoyed me so much, where everybody was like, "Oh, is there this big controversy of you falling out?" And I was like, "No, like I still speak to Ross and Hilly like as often as I can." And it's
you
just the
keep
case.
those doors wide open. Eh?
Definitely, it's not just the fact that they're the contacts; they're good mates, and I want to see them succeed.
Yeah.
But it was a case of,
I mean, how do you, if you don't mind my asking, I mean, and obviously don't give away any secrets, but how do you monetize your show? You know, because maybe if you got, you know, like better at monetizing it, you know, everybody would win. I don't know. I mean,
the monetization, it's a small part of everything that goes on with it. Like, because, well, again, like the subscriber count is great. That's everybody's like, oh, you've got 10,000 subscribers, but if people don't subscribe, watch, like, and comment on a video, I lose money. It's why the Ginger Engine has 4,000 subscribers, but it makes more than this
because they're always commenting.
They comment, they contribute. There's a community there. They all contribute with. Sadly, with mental health stuff, people don't want to comment as much and talk about it, which is something that I keep trying to fight. And keep trying to raise awareness with doing things like this. Yeah. But when there is no comments and there's no engagement with videos, the only way you can get the algorithm and stuff to pick things up is by checking all. You think of it like a checklist.
Yeah.
Is getting the subscribers and getting the watch hours. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's difficult, mate. That's the easy part. That's the easy part. If you've got the people that will tune in and watch your stuff, to get you to that point." Keeping them and having it is the hard part. It's like when people tell you pass your driving test, but you only start learning after you've passed it. It's a similar deal. You look at your checklist, and if you don't tick all those boxes, you don't get as much money. You tick 3 out of 4, you get less, so on and so on.
So you almost need like a mailing list of email addresses and WhatsApp phone numbers, etc.
Yeah.
And then before you do a podcast, even if it's 10,000 people, you press the button and whoop, they all get an email, they get a WhatsApp message, they get a Facebook message, and they just say, okay, well, I'm just going to click this, because I'm not going to watch, but I'm going to click it, Yeah. Okay, well, hopefully they are going to watch, but then you get all the clicks, and that's really all you need. Then you get your money.
It's also a thing like YouTube. They crack down on a lot of things. Like they're constantly evolving and changing. It's why I recently told people, don't upload a lot of videos to your channels in December, unless you're already pretty established. Because around that time, like every company, they do audits. They'll check to see if channels still have active subscribers or not. And if they aren't active, they cut them. And sometimes we'll start in December, sometimes we'll start in November. This year they started in October, and this channel at the time this recording has lost 70 subscribers because they're like, people aren't listening or engaging. Gone. They just take it away.
Okay, so you need to somehow get them back.
And you try your best. You try your best with content and stuff as well.
What we can do is we can get Danny to go around to their place and say to them,
"Hey, muchacho, what you doing? You don't describe no more what's going on here."
Yeah, you just get him to turn up with the machete, and
I can bring his machete. I bring my machete. Yeah, cabron.
I know, but it is one of the things. There's always ways that people will try and block you, and there's ways you've got to try and keep persevering. I don't blame YouTube for any of this stuff.
You must take a more Mexican approach, my friend. You're taking too much shit from these guys. You must do some violence, man.
I wonder if there is such a thing as a Mexican YouTube. No, I mean, YouTube's worldwide also, but just their own specific Mexican corner of YouTube.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the Mexicans, they were big before the United States was even populated, I mean, you've got Quetzalcoatl and all of that, I mean, so, we in the West, we think, we're so good, we're so paramount and all that. But, we are like the last big, like Roman Empire, They were the Roman Empire long before anybody else. And then even maybe before the Romans, I'm not a historian by any, stretch of the imagination, but, I think what we do lack, I think, in the West is a degree of humility. We treat Mexicans badly. We treat Black people in South Africa badly. We treat, the Indian people. We think everybody else is like inferior, and because we are something special, we the best. But we need to look at ourselves and say, listen, guys, I think we need to change our minds. A little bit. I mean, like, how can? Sorry, my mind's spinning a little bit. I'm thinking about, Israel and Palestine not being able to make friends. I don't get it. They've had it long enough to get used to each other.
Yeah.
I think there has to be a degree of like compromise somewhere along the line so that we can all get along. I mean, look, world peace ain't gonna happen. I get it. I just get it. But I mean, I wish it would.
Yeah, a lot of people wish it would, but sadly, there is too much money to make out of the other side of it, and that's the thing that's sickening.
And also, I mean, like then you see, like we're living in a time at the moment where the fuel price came down to like 130, and they thought, wow, we were making so much money, Now it's back to 164. I mean, what the? I mean, the United Kingdom, Scotland in particular, pulls all of that stuff out the Black Sea, and yet we're paying full price. I mean, sorry, I know it's another topic, but it's also related to the Middle East and the oil crisis, and ever since 1970, we've been like having like red hot pokers rammed up our derrieres. That in the 70s, my old man used to drive a Ford Galaxy 500. Right, it was a V8. It was massive. It was imported from America by the people that were at the American embassy, and we got it secondhand. He used to put 4 children, a nursemaid, himself and his wife, my mom, into this car, and for about £3, drive 500 miles down to the coast.
Wow.
For £3. I mean, now you don't even put £3 of juice in your vehicle because it's just not going to make a difference.
Worth it. No, it's not worth it. But we are starting to come up on time, my friend. I mean, we could talk about this all day. No, we could talk about this all day. But I think there's a lot of people that could, and that's probably what the problem is. There's so many things you could talk about with this type of stuff. But what I want to find out is, where can my audience find you so we can keep promoting you and keep promoting your stuff? So we can get all the big links to go screw you.
What I can do is, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go and look on the internet, and then I can send you a couple of links?
Just tell me where my audience can find you, and I will put the links in the description of this video.
Okay. I'm on YouTube. I've got 2 channels. I don't know how to make them into one channel. I'm getting towards an age that I don't even want to mention. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and anything that I'm up to is on all of those platforms. And then I'll look for some specific links, and I can send them to you, so you can see some of the clips that I've extracted from movies I've been in, etc., etc.
No, definitely. And any links that are sent will be in the description of this video, as well as there'll be a little bar that just popped up there that's saying where you can find Sean on Facebook and Instagram. So check him out. And more importantly, give him gigs, because the more gigs he gets, the better I look by association. Obviously,
it's very kind of you, sir.
Yes, well, that's I mean, man, like you're a great guy. Like, you do a lot of good work for people, especially like the stuff that you're doing over the holiday season, like for kids. Like, that's something, like you said, it's magical. It's brilliant. It's creating memories for children. And I could say there's some things you can't buy, but in fairness, you do have to buy a ticket sometimes to see them.
Thank you. Listen, I mean, sometimes the kids come back to see me because they ask specifically. The parents, contact Edinburgh, and they say, what days is the South African Santa performing, because we've seen him like 4 times before, and I mean the kids want to see him again, and
it's getting towards the end of when they're going to even believe him anymore, you know? So I must be doing something vaguely correct.
Well, considering that you've been doing it for 8 years, think about that's a whole generation of kids that you've brought smiles to, and joy and happiness to, and considering how, like you said, how shit the world has been lately, we need more people like you bringing that to the next generation.
I get more from the kids than I give them, bro. I can't explain that properly, but man, oh man, oh man. You know, my wife died nearly 3 years ago. Yeah. And I did a center that year, you know, and it helped me get through it, you know.
Yeah. Sorry. Understandable.
Sorry,
no, don't worry about it, my friend. That's what this is for. Like,
some pain never goes away. Eh?
Definitely not. Definitely not, my friend. And I can obviously, I've not lost Alison, but at the time of this recording, I'm not living with her, and I'm not living with the kids, and it breaks my heart.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that. You got to fix that, man. You got to fix that. I don't know how, but you got to fix it somehow or another, man.
You just got to take the time and keep going and doing it. Like, I still see the kids and I still see Alison. We still love each other, but we still have time together.
Can I say something quickly just before we go and all that? Love is a verb. Okay, love is what you do. It's not what you say. It's what you do. It's a verb. It's a doing word. So, you know, all you got to do is, you know, there's an emotional bank account that exists between you and your wife, and there's one that exists between you and your kids, and you just have to keep depositing every bit that you can. You deposit into that bank account, and let me tell you something now. If that doesn't correct whatever has gone wrong, nothing will. So. I believe in you, I think you can make it happen.
Thank you, my friend. Again, it's the same deal. We just got to keep going with it.
You got to.
Who knows? Who knows what will happen? As long as I get to see the kids, and I'm happy. Important. I get to see them. I get to spend time with them, and I love it. Long may that continue. I just want to keep that going.
There's nothing quite like having a fantastic relationship with your children, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sean, you've been an absolute pleasure and a delight to speak to, as always, man. Get some more stand-up gigs under your belt as well if you can. I know it's a trek, coming for Stirling.
No, I'll make that commitment publicly, and look out at the venues, because I think the material that I've worked on is starting to work really well now. So
yeah, I mean, the stuff that I saw you when you were just starting out was really strong. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. You could hear me belling laughing for the back of the blooming halls. So keep going, my friend. And just
thank you.
And keep plugging away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for this opportunity to be on air with you again.
Yeah, always, my friend. Always. And it's the same off air. If you need a chat, you know where I am. Until next time, everybody. I've been Andrew Dern. This has been the brilliant Sean Higgs. Check out his socials. The links will be in the description. Until next time, take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.